Hi, everybody. It's Joe Chaffee on this Friday night. It is the 2nd of November. And I've always looked at, by the way, once we get to Halloween, my view always has been that from the from November 1st to December 25th, Christmas Day, this is basically just one long day. It goes very fast. It's almost like you're falling through a black hole somehow in terms of time. So before you know it, we will be in the beginnings of winter. And we're starting to see, we've actually started to see this a couple of weeks ago, the upper air pattern across North America and the United States undergoing this sort of big transition. You are still seeing the remnants of summer holding on. A slight example of that in the eastern states today, with temperatures in the 60s and 70s running all the way up the eastern seaboard. And on the other hand, you are getting these storms that are developing, these storm systems with strong cold fronts with severe weather ahead of it. And behind it, you're seeing shots of cold air. We continue to work on the idea that we're going to see these progressive shots of these cold fronts with progressively colder shots of air coming behind each weather front. Looks like the pattern is going to be active through the first half of the month. There's nothing that I'm seeing that I would regard as unusual. It looks like we are in typical early November mode. And certainly we are ahead of the game from last year, where we still had this ridge in the east pattern and the very warm above normal temperatures that lasted almost into the middle part of November before things finally started to change and change in a radical way. In the meantime, let's look at what's happening tonight, because we do have severe weather going on. I'm down in Florida, and earlier this afternoon, not too many hours ago, we saw uh, severe weather in the Tampa Bay area. There were four tornado warnings running all at the same time. And here's the radar view right now over the state of Florida. And I participated in this. I just got out of this line that is running right along the coast north of West Palm Beach, going southwest toward Naples and Sarasota, and continuing out into the Gulf of Mexico, and also continuing northeast out into the Atlantic. Now, this is all part of this larger area of showers and storms that's running right up the coast. And in fact, now we're seeing some of that heavier rain moving through eastern Pennsylvania. Rains are coming back into New Jersey, and this is going to translate into southern New England. It's from this that the Storm Prediction Center, by the way, has a risk of severe weather that continues for the overnight. I've got the risk map up here somewhere. Let me just find it. I'll shrink myself away momentarily. But here's the Storm Prediction Center's map, and the marginal risk runs all the way up and down the eastern seaboard through tonight until 8 a.m. Saturday morning. Now, we'll gradually see that line. The western part of that line is going to be gradually shifting eastward as the night goes on. But there are going to be some strong thunderstorms with this. And all of this is in transition to some colder air that's coming in. And we are going to see, by the way, some pretty strong winds across much of the Northeast tomorrow afternoon, particularly for New England, where I think there could certainly be gusts of 50 to 60 miles an hour with low pressure that's going to be intensifying and moving on up into northern Maine by the end of the day. In the meantime, just to take a look at what's going on, the sharp cold front, the temperatures that are in the 60s as of 8 o'clock throughout much of Delaware on up into southern New England. And south of there, we're looking at temperatures that, whoops, didn't want to get that tight, but south of there, we're looking at temperatures down through Virginia and North Carolina that are still in the 70s. The cold front still has not quite made it to the coast yet. And you can see where the wind shifts are. I put the wind barbs on. So where the barbs shift northwestward across western Virginia now, temperatures in the mid 40s. We're in the lower 40s as you go north and west of there, and running up back through Chicago. We're seeing temperatures mostly in the 40s. You start to get into a few upper 30s as you head up through Wisconsin and into Michigan. So this is a decent shot of chilly air. It's nothing exceptionally cold. It's a little, the atmosphere's still not readied up for that. It may very well be readied up for it a week or so from now, but right now there's not a whole lot of cold Canadian air coming down onto the scene into the United States. With respect to the next uh, couple of days, let's start with tomorrow, and going to have the GFS up. By the way, I'm just going to let you know, guys, this live stream tonight is going to be a little shorter than usual, just because it's a Friday night, okay? And I got a bit of a long weekend ahead and trying to get back to my neck of the woods. So I'm just going to get this all done, and then we'll come back to it at some point over the weekend. But here's our wave. We're getting a wave developing on the front. There's a good, strong southwest flow ahead of it, warm tropical air, high dew points. You get this cold front to come through tomorrow during the early morning hours, triggering off some strong, some heavy rain, some heavy downpours, and maybe a couple of severe thunderstorms in the mix. The front goes by, the pressure gradient tightens as the low begins to intensify as it moves up into northern New England. You can see there's a high in eastern Tennessee, a lot of isobars in between, and that gradient gets very tight tomorrow afternoon, particularly from New York City north and east. And that's where I think the strongest winds are going to be. You go south and west, it'll be breezy. There'll probably be gusts of 20 to 30 miles an hour down into the Washington, D.C., Baltimore area. But in terms of gusts of 40 or more, I think we're going to say from central New Jersey, northeastern Pennsylvania, on north and east. And you get into southern New England, eastern Connecticut, up into eastern Mass and New Hampshire. I think there you're talking probably some gusts of 40 or 50 miles an hour or more. Now that low lifts out. We get a nice high builds into the northeast on Sunday, but that's only temporary because the onshore flow will bring clouds back. And the model's kind of backed off. It had some ocean moisture coming in. It's sort of backed off on this for Monday. But the onshore flow, I think, is going to keep us in a lot of clouds. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's some spotty light rain or drizzle. But in the meantime, you've got a low that's wrapping up and intensifying and moving into the western Great Lakes. This is for Tuesday. And there's going to be a strong cold front with that extends from that low southward into the Gulf states. So there probably will be some severe, possible severe thunderstorms with this, or at least some strong thunderstorm activity across the Ohio Valley and maybe extending a little bit further south from there. And then the front rips on through the northeast Tuesday night into early Wednesday. Notice across the Great Lakes turning very, very windy at a very deep low there, 978 low, high pressure down in Arkansas, so a very tight pressure gradient. It looks like we're probably going to get some strong winds and maybe even some backside snows Tuesday night and Wednesday morning over parts of Wisconsin, the western part of the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, and into northeastern Minnesota. And then going from there, a little bit of colder air comes in for the middle and latter part of the week. It's not an impressive shot. It'll have to wait for this next front that comes a week from today with another round of showers and thunderstorms here. And after that, it looks like the air behind that will be a little bit colder, but again, doesn't really look overly impressive. And still another system as we move toward Monday, the 12th. And this one has a stronger punch of cold air behind it. I kind of think this idea sort of makes sense here with front after front after front. And then eventually you do get the some colder air that comes in to the eastern part of the United States. One of the issues going forward, by the way, is the fact that it's the trough and where the trough is in terms of its relative to position to the East Coast. And here it is tonight, as you can see on the GFS. The bottom part of that trough is swinging up and around tonight, which is causing the strong thunderstorms that we're seeing up and down the East Coast. That trough lifts out. You get a bit of a ridge in between for Sunday and Monday, but the next trough is still pretty far. The mean trough position here is still pretty far to the west. It's in the middle of the U.S. It's not really in the east. It's more like around 95, almost 100 degrees longitude. And until that trough axis swings eastward enough, the coldest air is going to stay in the Great Lakes and Plains. Now, the model argues that next weekend you do get enough of an eastward shift to bring some colder air in. And in fact, beyond that, as we go into the week of the 12th, which is Veterans Day, that is a sizable trough into the eastern part of the United States with some cold air before that ultimately pulls out in the long term. And then you've got another trough that wants to drop in. So uh, what this means going forward for the next 2 and possibly 3 weeks, folks, is that we're going to see cold front after cold front after cold front coming through with shots of cold air behind it, brief warm-ups ahead of the next front, some showers and maybe some thunderstorms with the front going by, followed by the next shot of cold air. It's a very progressive west to east type of pattern. It is not one pattern where you're going to wind up seeing storms tracking along the east coast and offshore. There's no blocking to speak of. So this is part of the atmosphere's attempt to just basically, it's got work to do. Okay, it's got work to do to resolve the dying remnants of the summer months and the general chill down that's going on in the overall atmosphere across the northern hemisphere as it prepares itself for winter. Here's the weather prediction, WPC, with its rainfall for the next 7 days. So we keep seeing this, by the way, adjusting. The rains now probably reflect well the next couple of weather systems where we start to see an increase in the amount of rain being shown throughout the middle and upper Mississippi Valley and through the western lakes. The rain that you see in the east is probably more front-end loaded with what's going on tonight and into tomorrow. Still not much going on in the southwest, and you're getting some precip and some rains coming in to the Pacific Northwest. And really quick, I mean, we'll just give you a regional radar view here of those of you that are in my neck of the woods from eastern Pennsylvania to southern New England. We do see this area of heavier downpours beginning to move along and move in from the southwest to the northeast. It's now coming up on 12 minutes after 8 o'clock Eastern time. So please, if you're watching this on a replay, particularly because of the threat of severe weather, do yourself a favor and check the latest weather information from your local National Weather Service office. Weather.gov is the way to access that. And this way you'll have the latest regarding any watches or warnings. Because if you're watching this at midnight, obviously the radars are going to be on the, how shall we say, let's call it the dated side. Okay, let me really fast just do a quick round of business here. Some of you are already on the Patreon platform, but for those of you who aren't, there it is. This is, I put a link up earlier on the chat. It is a subscription platform with access to exclusive videos. We actually did an exclusive video this afternoon just for Patreon members, and usually we do that every day in the morning. So I don't make those public. It's just for those on Patreon. It starts at $2 a month, and I'll put the link back up again. It'll come in pretty handy. And you know what? There are no flat earthers. There are no geoengineers. There are no harpists on there. It's just weather, and the group of people that have joined just very much interested in weather and not too much interested in all the nonsense that the trolls bring on. So do consider it there, and I put the link up on the chat. And thank you again for those of you who have joined up. So we'll just spend the rest of the time tonight. We'll just go through some of your comments and questions, and a big collective hello to everybody. It's nice to see everybody on board tonight. Are we going to break the yearly record for rain this year? This is ridiculous. Brian Lathan says, well, this is, I think, for New York City anyway. I know we've gotten over 50 inches, and that doesn't, for the season, and that doesn't happen all that often. who knows? I mean, if this active weather pattern continues, where we keep getting a couple of inches with every shot, there's, we could wind. I don't know what the annual rainfall record is for New York. I'll have to go look it up. If Anthony Orr is on here and listening, he'll probably check it for me. But I'll give it a check. But 50 inches is a sizable amount of rain that we've seen, and again, probably another inch or two from tonight, maybe another inch or two from the systems for the early part of this week, and maybe another inch or two for the systems in the latter part of this week. And you can do parasailing in the mountains, Johnny Quest, with all the rain and the high winds. Yeah, quite right. I saw them doing it out here. But that's not my thing. um, we have a problem where I live. We have water coming through the roads. I'm sure. And you know what? With the soil moisture content there where you are, I just wonder what the impact would be if you went and suddenly, like last year, where we got very, very cold very, very quickly, where you wind up getting into a serious hard freeze with the ground so wet. I'm curious as to what kind of impact that might have. Dio Nankumar, as far as the teleconnections are concerned tonight, they're really not showing very much. You've got weak signals from all the elements, the EPO, the East Pacific Oscillation, the Pacific North America pattern, and the North Atlantic Oscillation. They're all kind of giving weak signals, positive to negative. The EPO is probably the one indicator that is consistently on the negative side, which would favor colder air gradually working into the eastern part of the United States. But they're not strong signals, and they're not off the wall signals that we saw last year, for example, where we were stretched to extremes for a good part of the winter. Is about 40 inches seasonal? Yeah, I think it is. I think 35 to 40 is about average for New York's. 50 is, obviously it's above average. I don't know what the highest annual rainfall record is. I used to have these things like right front and center, but as you get older, you start to forget a lot of stuff. We've had one dry day in the stretch and the second half of August, and that's it. And it gets like this, box 505. You get into these patterns sometimes where they lock in, and we're in a wet mode. Daniel Valenciano, look at the 12Z model for the GFS. I did look at it. I didn't really see anything that caught my eye. I mean, nothing especially. I'm certainly not going to get excited over whatever it does on the surface, because that's going to happen on every run, and it's going to do it differently and put it in one place and then in another, and then it disappears. This is the regular game with the GFS, and it's just I really right now I'm not seeing anything in the upper air in terms of the broader pattern that suggests any kind of early season, because I know this is going toward the idea of an early season snowfall, and I'm just not seeing it at the moment. With all the rain in the past, does that mean possibly more snow over this winter season? Larry Blast, not necessarily. You could have have a pattern like this, and it lasts for as long as it lasts, and then it just shuts down. I mean, there's no real correlation between pretty much any pattern you can think of in the summer and fall months that's linked to a warm winter or a cold winter or anything. There's just way too much variability and probably not enough of a data set. So I knew Anthony Orr, our resident statistician, who we love so very much, would have the answer. 1869 to present in New York City, Central Park, the wettest year was 1983, 80.56 inches. Thank you very much. And I think, as I said, I think we're over 50 right now. So we probably, we certainly have opportunity to finish up into the 60s. Dallas snow, he asks. Well, okay, you know what? Let me just take a look again. Hold on, let's see. Okay, so I'm not. All right, so I'm trying to see where you're seeing this, because I'm not seeing it. That's the 18Z. Hang on, I thought I switched it over. All right, let's go. Let me go back. All right, you've got this low at the end of next week. where you're actually kind of in the warm sector. All the cold air is further north, which snows up in Kansas. And then, okay, I mean, if you're looking at 276 hours, Daniel. No, okay, not at this stage of the game. Okay, you can't. You'll go crazy if you start doing this with every run, and it's only November. All right. Um, let's wait and watch and see what comes out of all this in the next 3 or 4 days with the overall upper air pattern. Let's get things inside 7 days before we get excited about them. All right. So, but I understand. No, don't apologize, Daniel. I totally get it. You know, snow lovers, we're all in our own little world and totally understand this. So it's not a problem. Just trying to keep you from losing it if you get disappointed. We're going to be disappointed more often than not with how these models behave. Third wettest year, Anthony Orr says, was in 1972 with 67.03 inches, and 99 Wolves saying 2011 was a crazy year. Well, it certainly was. 10 and 11 was some winter. That was one where the NAO went negative in November and stayed negative right through January, and then I think after that it just kind of died off. Just trying to check and make sure I got everybody on board tonight, and I think I did. So you know what? Let's call this a night at this point and cut it short. A 21-minute weather video, which some people have messaged me saying that that's long enough and you don't need to go longer. Sometimes we get into conversations and the next thing you know, I've done over an hour. My videos are as long as I want them to be, and you guys seem to hang around for them. So, but tonight we're gonna keep it on the short side. So just once again, if the Patreon platform is there, do consider it. The link is up in the chat. There's also a link up on the descriptor to this live stream and the descriptor to this video, and it really will come in handy for you when we start to deal with some of the more serious winter weather events that'll be coming into the eastern part of the United States. Also, for those of you who shop on Amazon, do it on the Amazon link. Use the link that's on the descriptor to this live stream or the descriptor to this video if you're watching it on the replay. We are a participant in the Amazon Services LLC program, which is an affiliate advertising program designed to provide a means for us to earn fees by linking to Amazon.com and their affiliated sites. So if you shop on Amazon, you get your stuff. Doesn't cost you an extra dime because Amazon throws me some coin out of their pocket for sending you to them. And for those of you who have used that Amazon link, I really appreciate it. I put it up on the chat. Thank you very much for your consideration. Thank you, Johnny. You'll have a safe trip back home. Leaving first thing in the morning. Should be back sometime on Sunday. And that's it. So be safe. And we'll talk to you at some point over the weekend. But I don't think we're going to be doing it tomorrow. If we do another live stream, and if I'm not exhausted, it'll be Sunday. If not Sunday, definitely we're going to be all back to normal on Monday. Good night, everybody.